This afternoon, CEO Lydia Chambers fired Hunter Tate without hesitation. 15 minutes late to cater her exclusive yacht party, no explanation accepted. By sunset, he'd neutralized 6 armed hijackers to save her life, standing over unconscious assailants on her blood-stained deck while she stared in disbelief at the man she'd just humiliated. What she didn't know, Hunter was once a decorated Marine Force recon operator who dismantled international smuggling rings across 3 continents. And the criminals who just boarded her yacht? They were sent by someone from his past who'd been waiting years for revenge. Stay with me until the end of this story and comment what city you're watching from. I want to see how far this journey goes. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The sliding glass doors of Coastal Bay Urgent Care hissed open at 6:47 a.m., revealing a waiting room already half full despite the early hour. Hunter Tate carried his 7-year-old son Caleb through the entrance, the boy's small body radiating heat like a furnace against his chest. Caleb's forehead pressed against Hunter's neck, burning with the kind of fever that turned rational thought into pure parental panic. "How high?" the triage nurse asked, her tone efficient but not unkind. She'd seen this dance 1,000 times before, worried fathers, sick kids, mornings that started in terror. 103.2 when I checked 20 minutes ago, Hunter said, shifting Caleb's weight in his arms. The boy had fallen back asleep during the drive, his breathing shallow and rapid. He was fine yesterday. Played soccer at recess, ate dinner, went to bed normal. Then he woke up screaming at 4 this morning, saying his head hurt. The nurse typed notes into her computer, her eyes flicking between the screen and Caleb's flushed face. "Any vomiting? Rash? Stiff neck?" "No vomiting. No rash that I can see. He said his neck hurts, but I don't know if that's stiff or just sore from sleeping wrong. Let's get him back right away." She stood, grabbing a tablet. "Follow me." The examination room was small and cold, decorated with cartoon characters that were supposed to make sick kids feel better, but somehow made everything worse. Hunter sat in the plastic chair, refusing to put Caleb down, holding him like he could absorb the fever through sheer willpower. "Mr. Tate?" A doctor appeared, young, maybe 30, with kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I'm Dr. Patel. Let's take a look at this young man." The next 20 minutes were a blur of questions, examinations, and that special kind of waiting that only happened in medical facilities. Time stretched and compressed simultaneously. Finally, Dr. Patel looked up from her notes with an expression that made Hunter's shoulders drop with relief. "It's viral," she said. "Nasty one, but viral. His throat is inflamed, lymph nodes are swollen, but there's no sign of bacterial infection. No meningitis, no strep, nothing that requires hospitalization. So he'll be okay? He'll be miserable for a few days, but yes, he'll be fine. Alternate ibuprofen and acetaminophen every 4 hours for the fever. Plenty of fluids. If it goes above 104 or lasts more than 3 days, bring him back. Otherwise, this is just something his immune system needs to fight off." Hunter nodded, processing, already mentally calculating the cost of this visit. His bank account currently held $892.47. Rent was due in 8 days at $1,200. The urgent care visit would be at least $200, maybe $300. The prescriptions would be another $40 or $50. He'd been counting on this week's catering paycheck to bridge the gap, had been planning to pick up extra shifts this weekend to build a small cushion. But Caleb was okay. That was all that mattered. Everything else was just math, just problems to solve. "Thank you, doctor," Hunter said, meaning it completely. He carried Caleb back to their 12-year-old Ford Explorer, the passenger side mirror held on with duct tape, the check engine light glowing its permanent amber warning. Caleb stirred as Hunter buckled him into his booster seat. "Dad?" His voice was scratchy, small. "Am I going to school?" "Not today, buddy. You're staying home, resting, getting better." "Are you going to work?" Hunter checked his phone. 7:53 a.m. His shift at Sterling Events Catering started at 8 a.m., and the company was 30 minutes away on a good traffic day. Today was not a good traffic day. Today was the day Lydia Chambers, the CEO of Apex Dynamics and Sterling Events' most important client, was hosting an exclusive yacht party for 50 of the city's wealthiest investors. Today was the day Hunter absolutely could not be late. He fired off a text to his supervisor, a perpetually stressed woman named Janet who'd given him this job 9 months ago when he'd been desperate and underqualified. "Janet, sorry, running behind. My son had 103 fever. Had to take him to urgent care. He's okay, but I'm still in Harborview. We'll be there by 8:30 at the latest." The response came back within seconds. "Hunter, today is not the day. Chambers yacht party. She's already called twice asking about setup. Get here now." Hunter looked at Caleb in the rearview mirror, already dozing off again, his cheeks flushed, his breathing still too fast. He thought about calling his neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, asking if she could watch Caleb for a few hours. But Mrs. Rodriguez worked mornings at the bakery, wouldn't be home until noon. His ex-wife, Caleb's mother, lived somewhere in Nevada with her new husband, hadn't returned a phone call in 2 years. There was nobody. Just him. He drove to their apartment complex in Millbrook Heights, a fading building that had been nice maybe 20 years ago, now held together by deferred maintenance and tenant desperation. He carried Caleb upstairs, tucked him into bed, left medicine and water on the nightstand, with a note explaining the dosages. "I'll be back by 1, Hunter promised, smoothing hair back from Caleb's forehead. "Mrs. Rodriguez gets home at noon. If you need anything before then, you call me, understand? Anything at all." "Okay, Dad." Caleb's eyes were already closing. "Love you. Love you more than the ocean, buddy." It was their thing, their ritual. Started when Caleb was 3, and they'd gone to the beach for the first time after the divorce. Caleb had stood at the water's edge, tiny and amazed, and asked how much water was in the ocean. Hunter had said more than anyone could count. Caleb had said that's how much he loved his dad. The memory still made Hunter's chest tight. He drove towards Sapphire Bay Marina, where Sterling Events kept their catering equipment and where Lydia Chambers' 80-foot yacht was docked. Traffic was worse than predicted. Some accident on the coastal highway backing everything up for miles. Hunter's phone kept buzzing. Janet, increasingly frantic messages. "Where are you?" "Chambers is asking for the event coordinator." "Hunter, she's threatening to cancel our contract. If you're not here in 5 minutes, I can't protect you." He pulled into the marina parking lot at 8:47 a.m. 47 minutes late. He grabbed his catering uniform from the back seat, a black button-down and slacks that he kept clean and pressed because presentation mattered in this industry, and jogged toward the dock. The yacht was impossible to miss. Gleaming white against the morning sun, called Apex Ascent in gold lettering along the hull. The deck was already crowded with early arriving guests, wealthy people in expensive casual wear, the kind of clothes that cost more than Hunter's monthly rent, but were designed to look effortless. Janet met him at the gangway, her face pale with stress. "She wants to see you. Right now. I tried to explain, but she doesn't care. Hunter, I'm so sorry." "It's fine. I'll talk to her. It's not fine. You know how she is. Hunter did know. Lydia Chambers had a reputation that preceded her by miles. 34 years old, self-made billionaire, CEO of Apex Dynamics, a tech company that did something with artificial intelligence and data analytics that Hunter didn't fully understand, but that apparently printed money. She was brilliant, ruthless, and according to industry gossip, had never met an employee she couldn't replace. He found her on the upper deck, standing beside a table where caterers were arranging champagne flutes in precise geometric patterns. She wore white linen pants and a navy blazer, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail, sunglasses hiding her eyes. She was on the phone, speaking in clipped tones about quarterly projections and market positioning. When she saw Hunter approach, she ended the call without saying goodbye. "You're the coordinator?" Her voice was cold, factual, the tone of someone used to being obeyed without question. "Yes, ma'am. Hunter Tate. I apologize for being late. My son had a medical emergency this morning and I had to take him to urgent care. He's okay now, but it took longer than expected and traffic was backed up from an accident on the coastal route. I take full responsibility, and I assure you it won't impact the quality of service today. Everything is ready to go." Lydia Chambers removed her sunglasses, and Hunter saw eyes that were gray and calculating. The kind of eyes that saw straight through excuses to the perceived weakness beneath. "What time was your shift supposed to start?" she asked. 8 o'clock. "What time did you arrive?" 8:47. "That's 47 minutes late, Mr. Tate." "Yes, ma'am, but as I explained, my son was sick and I'm a single father. There was nobody else who could take him to the doctor. I came as quickly as I could. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us." Now back to the story. "Your personal circumstances are not my concern." She said it without malice, without emotion, just stating a fact as simple as weather or gravity. "I hired Sterling Events because they promised professional, punctual service. You are neither professional nor punctual. Ma'am, with respect, I've worked every event for Sterling Events for 9 months without a single complaint. My performance reviews are excellent. This is the first time I've ever been late, and it was because my 7-year-old son had a 103-degree fever. I'm asking for basic human understanding here. And I'm asking for the service I paid for." Lydia turned to Janet, who'd been standing nearby trying to become invisible. "Is this man essential to today's event?" Janet hesitated, loyalty and self-preservation warring on her face. "Miss Chambers, Hunter is one of our best people. He knows this event inside and out. Losing him would significantly impact our ability to deliver the experience you've requested. Then you should have ensured he arrived on time." Lydia turned back to Hunter. "You're fired, Mr. Tate. Collect your things and leave the premises. Sterling Events will invoice you for the breach of contract clause. Someone will be in touch about the details." The words hit like physical blows. Hunter stood there, processing, feeling the ground shift beneath him. "You're firing me because I took my sick son to the doctor?" "I'm firing you because you failed to meet the basic requirements of your job. Your reasons are irrelevant." "They're not irrelevant to me. They're my life." "Then perhaps you should have chosen a career that accommodates your life better." She replaced her sunglasses, dismissing him. "Security will escort you off the yacht. Goodbye, Mr. Tate." Hunter wanted to argue, wanted to explain about the medical bills and the rent, and the fact that losing this job meant losing everything. But he saw in her posture, in the set of her shoulders, that nothing he said would matter. To Lydia Chambers, he wasn't a person, He was a malfunctioning component to be replaced. He walked off the yacht with his head high and his heart breaking, passing the security guard who'd been summoned to ensure he left. Behind him, the party continued its preparations. Wealthy people gathering to celebrate wealth, completely unaware of the small tragedy that had just played out. Hunter sat in his Explorer in the marina parking lot, staring at the steering wheel, doing math that didn't work. $892 in the bank. Wanted $200 the rent due in 8 days. No job, no prospects. A sick son at home who needed medicine and food and stability. He pulled out his phone to call Caleb, check on him, hear his voice. That's when he heard the screaming. Hunter had been fired before. 3 times in the 6 years since leaving the Marines. Each termination a small death of dignity. Each one teaching him something about the gap between military service and civilian survival. Getting fired from the warehouse job because he'd taken an unauthorized break when Caleb's school called about an asthma attack. Getting fired from the restaurant because he'd missed a shift when his car broke down and he couldn't afford the Uber. Getting fired from the delivery service because his background check revealed he'd been arrested at a protest. Charges dropped, but the stain remained. Each time, he'd told himself it was just bad luck, wrong place, wrong time, circumstances beyond his control. But sitting in the parking lot of Sapphire Bay Marina, watching wealthy people board Lydia Chambers' yacht through his rearview mirror, Hunter felt something different. Not just the familiar shame of unemployment, but a deeper anger at the fundamental unfairness of a system where human beings were disposable. His phone buzzed. A text from Janet. Hunter, I'm so sorry. I tried to advocate for you, but she wouldn't listen. I'll write you the best reference letter I can. You're a good employee and a good person. This isn't fair. He appreciated the sentiment, even if it changed nothing. Janet couldn't hire him back. She couldn't pay his rent. She couldn't explain to Caleb why Dad lost another job, why they might have to move again, why stability was apparently something other families got to have, but not them. Another text, this one from the billing department at Coastal Bay Urgent Care. Your visit total is $287. Payment is due within 30 days. If you need to set up a payment plan, please call our billing office. $287? Added to the $892 in his account, that left $605. Minus the $200 rent due in 8 days. The math was simple and brutal. Hunter's hands tightened on the steering wheel. He'd survived firefights in Afghanistan, had completed missions that pushed human endurance past breaking points, had seen friends die and enemies fall, and had carried all of it home in a box marked service and sacrifice. And now he couldn't afford to keep a roof over his son's head because he'd been 47 minutes late to set up champagne glasses. The irony wasn't lost on him. Lydia Chambers, CEO of a tech company worth billions, couldn't spare basic human compassion for a single father earning $16 an hour. She lived in a world where 47 minutes was an unforgivable breach of contract, where employees were interchangeable parts in a machine optimized for profit, where a 7-year-old's fever was an irrelevant detail. He thought about the Marines, about the core values drilled into him during 13 weeks of hell at Paris Island. Honor, courage, commitment, taking care of your people, never leaving anyone behind. The military had problems. God knows it had problems. But at least it pretended to care about the humans inside the uniforms. Out here, in the world Lydia Chambers occupied, caring was weakness. Empathy was inefficiency. And Hunter Tate, former Marine Force recon operator, decorated veteran of 3 combat deployments, was just another expendable resource. His phone rang. Mrs. Rodriguez. Hunter? I just got home from the bakery and I saw Caleb is in your apartment alone. Is everything okay? He's burning up, pobrechito. Panic spiked. I know. I'm sorry. I had to work and there was nobody else. Can you stay with him? Please, I'll pay you. I just need a few hours to figure things out. Of course I'll stay with him. You don't pay me nothing. He's a sweet boy. But Hunter, he needs his papa. You should be here. I know. I'm coming home now. Thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez. Thank you so much. He ended the call and sat there, engine off, watching the yacht party continue without him. He should leave, should go home to Caleb, should start making calls about new jobs, new opportunities, new ways to patch together survival. But he didn't move. Some part of him, the part that had been trained to complete missions regardless of circumstances, needed to see this through. Needed to witness what his firing had bought. Needed to understand what was so important about this event that it justified destroying a man's livelihood. Through the explorer's windows, he watched guests arrive. They came in luxury cars and hired drivers, dressed in clothes that cost more than Hunter made in a month, carrying themselves with the easy confidence of people who'd never worried about urgent care bills or rent checks. They laughed, air-kissed, sipped champagne that probably cost $300 a bottle. Lydia Chambers moved through them like royalty, shaking hands, accepting congratulations for something Hunter couldn't hear. She'd changed clothes, now wearing a white dress that probably cost more than his car. She looked happy, radiant, completely unburdened by the memory of the man she'd fired an hour ago. Hunter's phone buzzed again, this time a call from an unknown number. Mr. Tate? This is Linda Chen from Sterling Events Corporate Billing. I'm calling regarding the contract breach termination fee. According to your employment agreement, Section 4.3, failure to complete an assigned shift results in a $500 penalty fee. We'll be deducting this from your final paycheck, which will be processed in 2 weeks. Hunter closed his eyes. Of course there was a penalty fee. Of course they'd take it from his paycheck. Of course the system was designed to punish him even after termination. I was fired for taking my sick son to the doctor, he said, keeping his voice level. I'm a single father. He had a 103-degree fever. There was nobody else. I understand, sir, and I'm sorry for your situation, but the contract terms are clear. The fee applies to all incomplete shifts regardless of circumstances. Even medical emergencies? Even medical emergencies. I'm truly sorry. She wasn't sorry. She was reading from a script, doing her job, enforcing rules created by people who'd never had to choose between their job and their son's health. Hunter ended the call without saying goodbye. $500 penalty fee, deducted from his final paycheck, which meant 2 weeks from now he'd receive maybe $200 instead of $700, which meant he'd have less than $100 total when rent came due, which meant eviction, homelessness, child protective services asking questions about his fitness as a parent. The anger he'd been suppressing broke through. Not the hot rage of combat, but the cold fury of injustice. Lydia Chambers had destroyed his life without a second thought, had dismissed his son's medical emergency as irrelevant circumstances, had activated contract clauses designed to extract money from fired employees. And now she was sipping champagne on her yacht, celebrating whatever billionaires celebrated, completely free from consequence. Hunter started the Explorer, ready to leave, ready to go home to Caleb and figure out how to survive this latest disaster. His hand was on the gear shift when he heard it. Not the polite sounds of a party, but something else. Shouting, not celebration, but alarm. He looked toward the yacht and saw people running. Saw someone fall, saw men in black tactical gear appearing from below deck, moving with military precision, carrying weapons. The yacht was under attack. and every instinct Hunter had spent 6 years trying to suppress roared back to life. The attack unfolded with the kind of precision that separated professionals from amateurs. Hunter counted 6 attackers, all wearing black tactical gear and balaclavas, moving in coordinated patterns that screamed military training. They'd emerged from the yacht's lower deck simultaneously, suggesting they'd either been hiding aboard before the party or had accessed the vessel through an underwater approach. 2 of them secured the gangway, cutting off the primary escape route. 2 more positioned themselves on the upper deck, weapons raised, forcing guests to the ground. The final 2 moved toward Lydia Chambers with clear purpose. This wasn't random piracy. This was a targeted operation. Hunter's training kicked in before conscious thought could catch up. His eyes cataloged details automatically, muscle memory from 1,000 tactical briefings taking over. 6 hostiles, all carrying what looked like HK-416 assault rifles, serious hardware that suggested serious funding. The guests, maybe 40 people visible on deck, were dropping to their knees, hands raised, following instructions shouted in accented English. The marina security guard, a retired cop named Williams, who Hunter had chatted with during previous events, was making the fatal mistake of reaching for his sidearm. One of the attackers saw the movement and fired a 3-round burst into the dock beside Williams's feet. The guard froze, hands up, weapon forgotten. Smart. They wanted compliance, not casualties. At least for now. Hunter's hand moved to his phone. 911, report the attack. Let professionals handle it. He was a civilian now, a fired catering coordinator with a sick son at home. This wasn't his problem. He'd done his service, paid his dues, earned the right to walk away from violence. But then he saw Lydia Chambers. She was on the upper deck, surrounded by her guests, but the 2 attackers were moving directly toward her. One of them pulled out what looked like a tablet, showed her something on the screen. She shook her head violently. The attacker grabbed her arm, yanking her away from the crowd. This was an abduction. Hunter dialed 911, keeping his eyes on the yacht. The call connected. 911, what's your emergency? Armed attack at Sapphire Bay Marina. 6 hostiles with automatic weapons, approximately 40 hostages on the yacht Apex Ascent. They're attempting to abduct the vessel owner. Send SWAT immediately. Sir, can you confirm the number of attackers and their weapons? 6 hostiles, all carrying what appear to be HK-416 rifles. They have tactical training, coordinated movement patterns. This is a professional operation, not random violence. You need tactical response units here now. Sir, are you in a safe location? Hunter looked at his Explorer, parked 50 yards from the yacht. Safe enough. He could drive away right now, leave this mess for the police, go home to Caleb. Sir, are you safe? One of the hostages, a woman in her 60s wearing pearls and designer clothes, was crying, begging. One of the attackers struck her across the face with his rifle butt. She collapsed, blood streaming from her nose. Hunter had spent 6 years in the Marines, learning to neutralize threats. Had completed missions in Helmand Province, Kandahar, Baghdad. Had been trained by the best soldiers in the world to handle exactly this kind of situation. And 47 minutes ago, Lydia Chambers had fired him for being late because his son was sick. He could walk away. Nobody would blame him. She'd shown him 0 compassion, 0 humanity, 0 recognition that he was a person with a life and responsibilities beyond her champagne party. Sir, police are en route. Estimated arrival time is 8 minutes. Please stay on the line and remain in a safe location. 8 minutes. In 8 minutes, those attackers could execute hostages, abduct Lydia Chambers, or disappear into the harbor on a pre-positioned escape boat. 8 minutes was a lifetime, in tactical situations. Hunter watched Lydia Chambers struggle against her captor, watched the elderly woman bleeding on the deck, watched the marina security guards standing helpless, outgunned and outmanned. And he thought about what he'd tell Caleb when his son was old enough to understand. Would he explain that sometimes you walk away from people who need help because they wronged you first? That revenge is more important than doing what's right? That the values the Marines taught him about protecting the innocent and standing against evil only applied when it was convenient? Damn it, Hunter muttered. Sir? Police ETA is 8 minutes. I'm going in. Sir, do not approach the hostile situation. Wait for professional response. I am a professional. Hunter ended the call. He popped the Explorer's trunk and pulled out the go-bag he'd kept there since leaving the Marines. Force of habit, preparedness drilled into him during years of deployment. Inside, a tactical knife, zip ties, a first aid kit, and a Glock 19 he'd never had to use in civilian life but couldn't bring himself to get rid of. The gun felt wrong in his hand. He'd spent 6 years trying to leave this behind, trying to be normal, trying to be just a dad who worked catering jobs and helped with homework. But normal hadn't worked out. Normal had fired him and threatened him with penalty fees and left him on the edge of homelessness. Maybe it was time to remember what else he was. Hunter approached the yacht from the blind side, using parked boats and marina equipment as cover. The attackers were focused inward on controlling the hostages, which gave him the opening he needed. He reached the hull undetected, found a maintenance access ladder on the starboard side. Climbing while carrying a weapon was harder than he remembered. 6 years of civilian life had softened him, added 20 pounds of dad bod he didn't have in his Marine days. But the muscle memory was still there, the training that turned movement into instinct. He reached the lower deck and paused, listening. Voices above him, speaking in what sounded like Russian or Ukrainian. Instructions being given, coordinates being confirmed. These weren't random criminals. This was an organized operation. Hunter moved through the yacht's interior, a luxury space of polished wood and expensive furnishings that felt obscene given the violence happening above. He found a stairway leading to the main deck, heard footsteps approaching. One of the attackers appeared, descending the stairs, weapons slung across his chest, talking into a radio. He saw Hunter a fraction of a second too late. Hunter moved. 13 years of Marine Corps combatives training compressed into 3 seconds of violence. Close the distance, neutralize the weapon, control the opponent. The attacker tried to bring his rifle up, but Hunter was already inside his guard. Palm strike to the jaw, followed by a takedown that sent them both crashing into the wall. The attacker was good, recovering faster than expected, throwing an elbow that caught Hunter's ribs. Pain flared, but Hunter had been hurt worse. He got his arm around the attacker's neck, a rear naked choke learned in his first week of Marine training, and squeezed. The attacker struggled for 15 seconds, then went limp. Hunter zip-tied him, gagged him with a piece of cloth torn from the man's own uniform, and took his radio. The voices coming through were urgent now, asking for status update from Sector 3. 5 hostiles remaining, 40 hostages. And somewhere on this yacht, Lydia Chambers was being held by people who wanted her for reasons Hunter didn't understand. He checked the unconscious attacker's rifle. Full magazine, selector switch on semi-auto. Hunter ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, and tossed the weapon into a storage locker. No point in adding more guns to this situation. Moving up to the main deck, Hunter could see the scene more clearly. The hostages were grouped near the bow, guarded by 2 attackers. The other 3 were on the upper deck with Lydia Chambers, showing her something on a tablet, demanding something she clearly wasn't willing to give. "The access codes," one of them shouted in accented English. "Give us the access codes or we start killing your guests, one every minute until you comply." Access codes. This wasn't about ransom. This was about data theft, corporate espionage, whatever secrets Apex Dynamics held. Lydia Chambers, to her credit, wasn't backing down. "If you kill anyone, you lose your leverage. You need me alive and cooperative, which means we negotiate. We don't negotiate with capitalist parasites." The lead attacker raised his weapon, pointing it at the elderly woman who'd been struck earlier. "Last chance. The codes, or she dies." Hunter had maybe 3 seconds to make a decision. Wait for the police? Let professionals handle it? Or intervene with a Glock 19 against 5 assault rifles in a situation where one wrong shot could kill a hostage? The smart play was waiting. But Hunter Tate had stopped making smart plays the moment he decided to climb aboard this yacht. He raised his weapon, sighted on the attacker threatening the elderly woman, and fired. The shot was perfect, center mass on the attacker's shoulder, exactly where Hunter intended. Not lethal, but immediately incapacitating. The man's weapon clattered to the deck as he spun backward, screaming in pain and surprise. Chaos erupted instantly. The other 4 attackers pivoted toward the gunshot's source, their training evident in how quickly they assessed the new threat. Hunter was already moving, using the yacht's architectural features for cover. A decorative pillar, a beverage station, anything that put solid material between him and incoming fire. Bullets tore through the air where he'd been standing a second earlier. The polished wood deck splintered, champagne glasses exploded in crystalline bursts, and guests screamed with renewed terror. Hunter counted the shots, mentally tracking each attacker's position by their muzzle flash and firing pattern. 2 on the upper deck, 2 moving toward his position on the main deck. The one he'd shot was down, but not out, crawling toward his dropped weapon with his good arm. Hunter waited 3 seconds, letting them commit to their advance, then broke from cover with a speed that surprised even him. 6 years of civilian life hadn't completely eroded the combat reflexes drilled into him during Marine Force recon training. He moved in a low crouch, closing distance on the nearest attacker before the man could adjust his aim. The attacker fired wild, panic overriding discipline. Hunter felt a round pass close enough to his head that he heard its passage, a supersonic crack that brought back memories of Helmand Province firefights. He returned fire twice, both shots aimed at non-lethal targets, the attacker's knee, then his weapon hand. The man went down hard, weapons skittering across the deck. 3 hostiles remaining active, plus the one he'd shot in the shoulder, who'd managed to retrieve his weapon and was trying to aim one-handed through obvious pain. Hunter kicked the mower nearest dropped rifle over the yacht's railing into the water below. Eliminating weapons was better than collecting them. Fewer guns in play meant fewer ways this could go catastrophically wrong. "Who are you?" the lead attacker shouted from the upper deck, his weapon trained on Lydia Chambers' head. "Identify yourself or she dies." Hunter stayed behind cover, assessing angles. The upper deck position was elevated, giving the attackers both cover advantage and clear sight lines. Rushing them would be suicide. But leaving them in control of Lydia meant they could execute her the moment police arrived. "Former Marine," Hunter called back. "And you're in a losing tactical position. You're surrounded by water with one exit route. Police response time in this district is under 10 minutes. You've got maybe 6 minutes before SWAT turns this yacht into a kill box. Your smart play is surrendering now. Our smart play is killing this capitalist parasite and escaping before your police arrive." The lead attacker pressed his rifle barrel against Lydia's temple. Drop your weapon and show yourself, or I execute her right now." Hunter's mind raced through options. He could try a precision shot, but the angle was wrong, and Lydia's head was too close to the attackers. He could wait for police, but 6 minutes was an eternity when someone had a gun to a hostage's head. He could surrender, but that just gave them 3 hostages instead of 1. Then he saw it. A detail his tactical training had automatically cataloged, but his conscious mind hadn't processed yet. The lead attacker's stance was wrong, weight distribution off, weapon grip showing stress indicators. This wasn't a hardened soldier comfortable with execution-style killing. This was someone playing a role, following a script, hoping the threat alone would be enough. "You won't shoot her," Hunter said, standing slowly, hands visible but weapon not dropped. "You need her alive. Whatever access codes you're after, they die with her. Which means this whole operation fails if you pull that trigger." The attacker's hesitation confirmed Hunter's read. Amateur hour disguised as professional operation. Hunter continued, voice calm and authoritative. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to release Ms. Chambers and surrender your weapons. In exchange, I'll let you use the yacht's tender to escape before police arrive. You get away clean, nobody else gets hurt. Everybody lives to fight another day. You have no authority to negotiate. I have the authority of being the only thing standing between you and a SWAT team that won't offer deals." Hunter gestured toward the marina. "You can hear the sirens already. That's your clock running out. Make the smart choice." For a moment, the situation hung in perfect balance. Then the elderly woman who'd been struck earlier did something unexpectedly brave. She stood up despite the guard nearest her shouting for her to stay down, and she spoke directly to Lydia. "Chambers, my dear, whatever they want, don't give it to them. Some things are worth dying for." The lead attacker made his fatal mistake. He turned his weapon away from Lydia to point at the elderly woman, and Hunter took the shot. Not at the attacker. That angle was still wrong. Instead, Hunter shot the tablet computer from the lead attacker's hand, the device exploding in a shower of plastic and circuitry. The man jerked backward reflexively, and Lydia did exactly what Hunter hoped she would. She dropped straight down, removing herself from the line of fire. Hunter was moving before the tablet hit the deck. He vaulted over the railing separating main deck from upper deck, a move his 43-year-old knees immediately protested, and landed in a roll that brought him up inside the lead attacker's guard. What followed was brutal and efficient. A disarm technique learned in Marine martial arts program training, executed with the kind of violence that came from muscle memory rather than conscious thought. The attacker's weapon went flying. Hunter's elbow connected with the man's solar plexus, driving the air from his lungs. A leg sweep brought him down, and a knee to the chest kept him there. The remaining 2 attackers on the main deck were climbing the stairs to the upper deck, but they stopped when they saw their leader on the ground with Hunter's Glock pressed against his head. "Weapons down," Hunter ordered. "Right now, or I paint this deck with his brains." He wouldn't actually execute an unarmed prisoner. The Marine Corps had taught him rules of engagement, laws of warfare, ethical boundaries that survived even in the chaos of combat. But these attackers didn't know that. They saw a man who'd taken down 4 of their team in under 3 minutes, who moved like a professional soldier, who held their leader's life in his hands. They dropped their weapons. Hunter zip-tied all 6 attackers using the restraints from his go bag, plus several cloth napkins from the catering setup, creating an improvised prisoner containment line. The hostages remained frozen, processing the violence they'd just witnessed, probably going into shock. Lydia Chambers stood slowly from where she'd dropped, her white dress stained with champagne and deck grime, her perfectly styled hair now disheveled. She stared at Hunter with an expression somewhere between disbelief and calculation. "You," she said, her voice steady despite everything. "You're the caterer I fired." "Former caterer," Hunter corrected, checking the attacker's restraints. "You made that pretty clear." "You just saved my life." "I saved 40 lives. Yours was incidental." Police sirens were getting louder now, multiple units converging on the marina. Hunter could see tactical teams taking positions on the dock, snipers finding elevated angles. They'd be boarding the yacht within minutes, and Hunter needed to make sure they didn't shoot him on sight. He raised his hands, Glock pointed safely at the deck, and called out toward the police positions. Active shooter situation resolved. 6 hostiles contained and restrained. Approximately 40 civilian hostages, some with minor injuries. I'm former military, armed but friendly. My weapon is pointed down and I'm complying with all instructions. A voice boomed through a megaphone. This is Harborview SWAT. The armed individual on the upper deck. Place your weapon on the ground and step away with your hands visible. Hunter complied, setting the Glock down carefully and stepping back with his hands raised high. Professional courtesy dictated cooperation. He'd been on the other side of these situations enough times to know how twitchy SWAT teams got when they arrived at chaotic scenes. The tactical team boarded with practiced efficiency, clearing the yacht room by room, securing prisoners, attending to wounded. Paramedics followed, triaging injuries. The elderly woman who'd been struck had a broken nose but was conscious and lucid. Several guests were treated for shock and minor injuries from diving to the deck. Hunter was immediately separated from the others, placed in flex cuffs, and escorted to a holding area on the dock. Standard procedure when someone was armed at a crime scene, regardless of their role in resolving it. He didn't resist, didn't argue, just cooperated completely while his mind was elsewhere. Caleb. Still homesick with Mrs. Rodriguez, still waiting for his dad to come back like he'd promised. Hunter's phone was in his pocket, inaccessible now with his hands restrained behind his back. He needed to call, needed to check in, needed to hear his son's voice and confirm he was okay. "Detective Santiago will want to interview you," one of the SWAT officers said, not unkindly. "You did good work here today, but we need to sort out the details. Understand?" Hunter nodded. He understood. He'd been through enough debriefings to know this process could take hours. The lead attacker was being loaded into an ambulance, shoulder wound bandaged, shouting in Russian or Ukrainian about diplomatic immunity and illegal detention. Hunter watched him go, memorizing the man's face, cataloging details his training insisted were important, even if he couldn't explain why yet. Lydia Chambers was standing with paramedics who were trying to check her for injuries while she waved them off impatiently. She was on her phone, speaking rapidly to someone about crisis management and public relations. Even nearly dying couldn't stop her from running her empire. Their eyes met across the dock. She ended her phone call and walked toward him, her expensive heels clicking against the concrete, her white dress ruined, but her posture still radiating authority. "Mr. Tate," she said, stopping a few feet away. "I need to speak with you." "Ma'am, I'm currently in custody. Detective Santiago will want my statement before I talk to anyone else." "I know. I've already spoken with the chief of police. You'll be released shortly, all charges cleared. Self-defense and defense of others, clearly justified use of force." She paused, and something shifted in her expression. Not quite vulnerability, but close. "What you did today, coming back after I fired you, risking your life to save people who meant nothing to you, I don't understand it." "I'm a Marine," Hunter said simply. "Or I was. The training doesn't really leave you. When people are in danger, you help. That's it. That's the whole equation. I fired you for being late because your son was sick. Yes, you did. That was wrong. The words seemed to cost her something. I was wrong. You deserved better, and I failed to give it to you. I'm sorry. Hunter studied her, looking for the angle, the corporate manipulation, the self-serving apology designed to avoid lawsuits or bad publicity. But what he saw was genuine regret, the kind that came from having your worldview violently adjusted. Apology accepted, he said. Can I go home to my son now? Soon. But first, I need to know something. Those men, they wanted access codes to Apex Dynamics' secure systems. They knew details about my company that should be impossible to know. This wasn't random violence. This was industrial espionage, possibly worse. She stepped closer. Your tactical assessment, your military background, the way you handled that situation, I need that expertise. I need someone I can trust. And right now, you're the only person who fits both criteria. Ms. Chambers, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in private security work. I just want to go home, take care of my son, find a new job that doesn't involve getting shot at. $75,000 a year, full benefits, flexible hours so you can be there for Caleb, private school tuition covered, and a formal apology to Sterling Events so your termination is reversed and the penalty fee is waived. Hunter's breath caught. $75,000 was more than double what he'd been making. That was stability. That was medical bills paid without panic. That was everything he'd been fighting for. What exactly would the job entail? Head of personal security. Protect me, investigate this attack, find out who's targeting Apex Dynamics and why. Lydia's voice was urgent now. Hunter, those men knew things only a handful of people should know. Which means I have a leak somewhere in my organization. I need someone outside my normal circles, someone whose loyalty can't be questioned because you have no stake in corporate politics. Detective Santiago was approaching, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, carrying a tablet and wearing the expression of someone who'd had a very long day that just got longer. Ms. Chambers, I need to interview Mr. Tate now, she said. Of course. Hunter, think about my offer. We'll talk after you're released. Lydia turned to the detective. Whatever Mr. Tate needs, bill it to Apex Dynamics. Legal representation, compensation for his time, anything. That's not necessary. Hunter started. It absolutely is necessary. Lydia met his eyes. You saved my life, Mr. Tate. The least I can do is make sure yours gets easier. The interview room at Harborview Police Department smelled like burnt coffee and industrial cleaner, a combination Hunter remembered from his few interactions with civilian law enforcement over the years. Detective Santiago sat across from him, tablet in hand, while another detective named Walsh stood by the door taking notes on an old-fashioned paper pad. Hunter's flex cuffs had been removed 2 hours ago, replaced with a surprisingly good cup of coffee and an assurance that he wasn't being charged with anything. Still, the room had the oppressive weight of official scrutiny, the sense that every word mattered. Let's go through it again, Santiago said, her voice professional but not unkind. You were fired from your catering job at approximately 8:47 this morning. You left the yacht. What made you come back? I was sitting in my car, about to leave, when I heard screaming. I looked and saw armed men taking hostages. I called 911 and reported the situation. And then you decided to board the yacht alone, armed with a personal firearm, and engage 6 armed suspects. Santiago didn't phrase it as a question. The 911 operator said police ETA was 8 minutes. In 8 minutes, those hostages could have been executed or the primary target could have been abducted. I made a tactical assessment that immediate intervention was necessary. You're not law enforcement. You're not private security. What qualified you to make that assessment? 6 years United States Marine Corps, Force Recon. 3 combat deployments, multiple high-risk operations. I'm trained for exactly this kind of situation. Walsh spoke up from the door. Your service record checks out. Decorated veteran, honorable discharge, no red flags. But that was 6 years ago, Mr. Tate. What have you been doing since? Trying to be a normal dad. Hunter's voice carried more bitterness than he intended. Working delivery jobs, catering gigs, anything that let me be there when my son got home from school. Normal didn't work out too well. Santiago pulled up something on her tablet. The 6 suspects are all foreign nationals, 4 Ukrainian, 2 Russian. All entered the country on tourist visas within the last month. We're working with federal agencies to determine their affiliations, but preliminary analysis suggests ties to organized crime syndicates specializing in corporate espionage. They wanted access codes to Apex Dynamic Systems, Hunter said. That's what they were demanding from Miss Chambers. This was targeted industrial theft, not random violence. Which raises an interesting question. Santiago leaned forward. How did they know Miss Chambers would be on that yacht today? The party was invitation only, location not publicized. Someone with inside knowledge had to provide that information. Hunter had been thinking the same thing. You're looking at her inner circle. Employees, business partners, anyone with access to her schedule. We are. And Miss Chambers has been extremely cooperative. Provided full access to her company records and personnel files. Santiago paused. She's also been extremely insistent that you be released immediately and cleared of any wrongdoing. She's already spoken to the district attorney, the chief of police, and apparently the mayor. You've got some powerful advocacy, Mr. Tate. She offered me a job. So we heard. Head of personal security. Significant salary increase, benefits package that most people would kill for. Santiago studied him. You going to take it? I don't know yet. Need to think about what's best for my son. Your son Caleb, age 7. Currently homesick with a neighbor watching him. Walsh consulted his notes. You took him to Coastal Bay Urgent Care this morning at 6:47 for a fever of 103.2. Diagnosed with viral infection, prescribed standard fever management. That's why you were late to work. Hunter tensed. How do you know all that? We do our homework, Mr. Tate. Especially when someone takes down 6 armed suspects in under 3 minutes. We need to know who we're dealing with. Santiago's expression softened slightly. For what it's worth, your story checks out completely. You're exactly who you say you are. A single dad trying to survive, who happened to be in the right place at the right time with the right skills. Or the wrong place at the wrong time, depending on perspective. Fair point. Santiago closed her tablet. You're free to go, Mr. Tate. We'll need you to come back tomorrow to sign your formal statement. But for now, you're done. Thank you for your cooperation and your service, both to your country and to those hostages today. Hunter stood, legs stiff from sitting too long. The attackers, what happens to them? Federal custody, most likely. DHS wants them for immigration violations. FBI wants them for terrorism-related charges, and we've got them for assault, kidnapping, and about 15 other felonies. They're not seeing daylight for a very long time. Good. Walsh opened the door, and Hunter stepped into the hallway. Immediately, he was intercepted by a woman in an expensive suit carrying a briefcase that probably cost more than his monthly rent. "Mr. Tate, I'm Rebecca Morrison, legal counsel for Apex Dynamics. Miss Chambers asked me to ensure you had representation during your interview and to provide you with this." She handed him an envelope. "Consider it a consulting fee for your time today." Hunter opened the envelope and nearly dropped it. A check for $10,000, signed by Lydia Chambers. "I can't accept this." "You absolutely can and should. You saved Miss Chambers' life and prevented a multi-million-dollar corporate theft. This is a token of appreciation, not payment. The actual job offer, should you choose to accept it, comes with significantly better compensation." Hunter stared at the check. $10,000. More than enough to cover rent, medical bills, everything he'd been panicking about this morning. It felt wrong, accepting money for doing what any decent person should do. But it also felt like oxygen after drowning. "Ms. Chambers is waiting outside," Morrison continued. "She'd like to speak with you, if you're willing." "I need to call my son first." "Of course. Take your time." Hunter found a quiet corner and dialed Mrs. Rodriguez. She answered on the first ring. "Hunter, gracias a Dios. I saw the news, the yacht attack. They said a hero stopped the bad men. That was you, wasn't it?" "It was." "I'm okay, Mrs. Rodriguez. I'm coming home now. How's Caleb?" "Sleeping. His fever is down to 100. He ate some soup, drank juice, asked for you maybe 20 times. He'll be so happy you're coming home. Tell him I'll be there in 30 minutes. And Mrs. Rodriguez, thank you for everything." "De nada, Hunter. Family takes care of family." He ended the call and found Rebecca Morrison still waiting patiently. "Miss Chambers is in the parking garage whenever you're ready." Hunter followed her through the police station, aware of the stares from officers and staff. Word had obviously spread about what happened at the marina. Some looked at him with respect, others with curiosity. A few with the wariness civilians always showed toward violence, even justified violence. Lydia Chambers was leaning against a black Mercedes sedan, still wearing the ruined white dress, looking exhausted but alert. When she saw Hunter, she straightened. "Mr. Tate, thank you for agreeing to speak with me. You gave me $10,000. Consulting fee. You provided valuable security services today. I didn't do it for money. I know. That's exactly why I want to hire you." She gestured to the car. "Can I give you a ride home? We can talk on the way." Hunter thought about refusing, maintaining distance, keeping this professional. But his Explorer was still at the marina, probably impounded as evidence, and he needed to get home to Caleb. Okay. The Mercedes interior was the kind of luxury Hunter had only experienced in vehicles he delivered for Sterling events. Leather seats, climate control, sound system that probably cost more than most people's cars. Lydia drove with the same precision she brought to everything else. Confident, but not reckless. "I meant what I said earlier," she began as they left the police station. "About being wrong. About you deserving better. I've spent the last 6 hours thinking about that moment this morning when I fired you. And I'm ashamed of how I acted. You were doing your job, maintaining standards. I was being cruel. There's a difference between maintaining standards and refusing to acknowledge someone's humanity." She stopped at a red light, turned to face him. "My father built Apex Dynamics from nothing. Started in a garage, worked 80-hour weeks, sacrificed everything to create something meaningful. But he never lost sight of the fact that companies are made of people, not just profit margins. What happened to him? Heart attack 3 years ago. Sudden, catastrophic, and I inherited everything at 31. $1 billion company, thousands of employees, expectations I had no idea how to meet. Her voice tightened. I convinced myself that being tough meant being heartless, that caring about employees made you weak. I've fired 17 people in the last year, Hunter. 17 human beings with families and responsibilities and lives I dismissed as irrelevant circumstances. The light turned green. She drove in silence for a moment. Today, when those men had guns to my head when I thought I was going to die, all I could think about was those 17 people, wondering if any of them would even care, wondering if I'd built a legacy worth dying for or just a profitable machine. And then I showed up. And then you showed up. The man I'd wronged, who had every reason to walk away, who chose to help anyway. She pulled into Hunter's apartment complex. The contrast between her Mercedes and the faded building almost comically stark. That's who I want protecting me. Not someone motivated by money or prestige, but someone motivated by doing what's right. Hunter looked at his apartment building, at the windows where Caleb was sleeping, where Mrs. Rodriguez was probably watching novellas and knitting, where his life waited in all its modest, struggling reality. I need to think about it, he said. Need to talk to my son, make sure this is what's best for him. I understand. Take all the time you need. Lydia handed him a business card. My personal number. Call anytime, day or night. And Hunter, regardless of your decision about the job, that check is yours. You earned it. Hunter took the card, got out of the car, then turned back. Ms. Chambers, those men today, they knew details about your company that should have been impossible to know. You have a serious security problem. Probably someone on your inside feeding information to hostile actors. Until you figure out who and why you're in danger. I know. That's why I need you. I'm not an investigator. I'm just someone who knows how to fight. You're someone who sees threats clearly and responds appropriately. That's exactly what I need right now. She put the car in reverse. Think about it, Hunter. Please. He watched her drive away, then climbed the stairs to his apartment. Mrs. Rodriguez met him at the door, hugged him fiercely despite barely reaching his chest, and whispered prayers of gratitude in Spanish. Caleb was asleep in his bed, forehead cool now, breathing easy, completely unaware that his father had spent the afternoon in gunfights and police interviews. Hunter sat beside him, watching his son sleep, feeling the weight of choices pressing down. $75,000 a year. Stability, security, everything he'd been fighting for. But also danger. Investigation into corporate espionage. Whoever was targeting Lydia Chambers wouldn't stop with one failed attempt. Taking this job meant stepping back into violence. Back into the world he'd spent 6 years trying to leave. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Tate, this is Detective Santiago. Thought you should know, we just identified the lead attacker. His name is Viktor Kozlov, former Ukrainian intelligence officer. He has ties to an organization we've been tracking for years, specializing in high-value corporate theft. And according to federal databases, he has a brother named Dmitry, who's been flagged as a person of interest in several international cases. Thought you'd want to know. Stay safe. Hunter stared at the message. Brothers, organizations, international connections. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Morning came too early and too bright. Caleb's fever had broken completely overnight, leaving him energetic and demanding pancakes with chocolate chips, his standard recovery meal. Hunter made them while fielding phone calls from numbers he didn't recognize. Reporters who'd somehow gotten his contact information asking for interviews about the Marina hero story that was apparently dominating local news. He declined them all politely, focused on the important thing. His son was healthy, smiling, completely unaware that yesterday his father had been in a gunfight. "Dad, can I go to school today?" Caleb asked through a mouthful of pancake. "Tomorrow, buddy. Doctor said you need one more day of rest." "But I feel fine now." "That's how you know the medicine worked. One more day, then back to normal." Normal. The word felt like a lie even as he said it. Hunter's phone rang again, this time a number he recognized. Lydia Chambers. "Mr. Tate, I hope I'm not calling too early." "Already up. Making breakfast." "Good. I need to meet with you today. Something's happened, something that changes everything." Her voice carried an edge of urgency he hadn't heard before. "Can you come to Apex Dynamics headquarters? I'll send a car." "I have my son home sick. I can't just leave him." "Bring him. I have a full childcare facility on site, medical staff, everything he might need." "Hunter, this is important. Please." Against his better judgment, Hunter agreed. The car that arrived an hour later wasn't the Mercedes. It was an armored SUV with a driver who introduced himself as Marcus Chen, head of Apex Dynamics' corporate security team. He was ex-military. Hunter could tell from his posture and the way he assessed threats while appearing casual. "Ms. Chambers speaks highly of you," Chen said as they drove through morning traffic. "What you did yesterday, that was exceptional work, professional grade. Just training. Training and instinct. Most people freeze in crisis situations. You move toward danger, that's rare." Caleb sat in the back seat, watching the city pass by with wide-eyed fascination. He'd never been in a car this nice, never experienced the casual luxury that apparently came with corporate security work. Apex Dynamics headquarters was a gleaming tower in the financial district, all glass and steel and architectural ambition. The childcare facility on the third floor was better than any school Caleb had ever attended. Professional staff, educational activities, even a small medical clinic staffed by a registered nurse. "Mr. Tate," the facility director said warmly. "Ms. Chambers told us about Caleb. We'll take excellent care of him. Any dietary restrictions or medical concerns we should know about?" Hunter provided the information, then knelt down to his son's level. "I'll be upstairs meeting with Miss Chambers. If you need anything, tell the staff and they'll call me immediately, okay?" "This place is awesome, Dad. Can I stay here every day?" "We'll see, buddy. Be good." Caleb ran off to join other kids building something with blocks, already forgetting his father. Hunter followed Chen to the executive floor, where Lydia Chambers waited in a conference room with 3 other people. "Hunter, thank you for coming." She gestured to the others. "This is Dr. Sarah Reynolds, my Chief Technology Officer. Jonathan Blake, my business partner and CFO. And you've met Marcus Chen, our security director." Hunter shook hands, noting the tension in the room. These weren't people gathered for routine business. This was a crisis meeting. Yesterday's attack wasn't random. Lydia began without preamble. "We've been analyzing the evidence, and what we found is deeply troubling. Those men wanted access to our quantum encryption system, a technology we've been developing for 3 years. It's designed to create unhackable communication networks for government and military applications." Dr. Reynolds pulled up a presentation on the room's display screen. "The encryption system uses quantum entanglement to generate truly random keys. Even with unlimited computing power, it's mathematically impossible to crack. The military applications alone are worth billions. But more importantly, it could protect critical infrastructure from cyber attacks. The Department of Defense has been in negotiations with us for exclusive rights, Jonathan added. We're 3 weeks away from finalizing a contract worth $800 million. If this technology fell into hostile hands, the national security implications would be catastrophic. Hunter processed this information. Yesterday's attack was an attempt to steal that technology. Yes, and it almost succeeded. Lydia pulled up security footage on the screen. Look at this. Timestamp 10:47 a.m., about 30 minutes before the attack. One of our senior engineers, a man named Thomas Whitfield, accessed the secure server room and downloaded encrypted files to a portable drive. The footage showed a nervous-looking man in his 40s, glancing around constantly as he worked at a terminal. Whitfield has been with the company for 8 years, Dr. Reynolds said. Excellent employee, trusted with our highest-level projects. We never had any reason to suspect him. Where is he now? Hunter asked. That's the problem. Marcus Chen pulled up another image. He left the building at 11:15 a.m., shortly after the download. Security footage shows him getting into a car with diplomatic plates. We tracked the vehicle to the Ukrainian consulate. Diplomatic immunity, Hunter said, understanding immediately. Exactly. We can't touch him, can't arrest him, can't even officially accuse him without creating an international incident. Lydia's frustration was evident. And the portable drive he took contains the core algorithms for our quantum encryption system. It's encrypted itself, but with enough time and resources, it could be cracked. How much time? 6 months, maybe a year with conventional computing. But if they have access to advanced quantum computers, possibly as little as 3 weeks. Hunter stood, moving to the window that offered views of the city sprawling below. Let me make sure I understand. You have a technology worth hundreds of millions, potentially critical to national security. An insider stole it and fled to a foreign consulate. And the same day, 6 armed men tried to force you to provide access codes that would have made that stolen data immediately usable. That's correct. Which means this is bigger than corporate espionage. This is coordinated international theft, possibly state-sponsored. That's our assessment as well. Lydia joined him at the window. And here's what we haven't told the police or federal authorities yet. Thomas Whitfield's wife, Elena, disappeared 2 months ago. We thought she'd left him domestic situation. But yesterday, after the attack, we received this. She showed Hunter a video on her phone. A woman, bound to a chair, tear-streaked face, speaking in English with a Russian accent. Thomas, please, do what they ask. They say if you cooperate, they'll let me go. If you don't, they'll kill me. Please, I love you. I want to come home. They kidnapped his wife to force him to steal your technology, Hunter said, and threatened to kill her if he didn't comply. We found this video on his work computer after he fled. He must have been watching it, trying to decide what to do. Hunter felt the familiar weight of impossible situations settling on his shoulders. A man forced to betray his company to save his wife. Criminals willing to kidnap and kill to steal technology. And somewhere in the middle, Lydia Chambers, brilliant and driven, and now desperately vulnerable. The federal authorities need to know about this, Hunter said. FBI, DHS, whoever handles international espionage. This is way beyond corporate security. We've already notified them, Jonathan said. They're investigating, but bureaucracy moves slowly. Meanwhile, we're 3 weeks from the biggest contract in our company's history, and the people trying to steal our technology know we're racing against a deadline. They'll try again, Hunter said. We know. That's why we need you. Lydia turned to face him directly. Not as a bodyguard, Hunter. As someone who understands how these operations work, who can think like the people targeting us, who can anticipate their next move. I'm not an intelligence analyst. No, you're better. You're someone who's actually fought these kinds of enemies, who survived impossible situations, who knows what violence looks like before it happens. Her voice was urgent now. I'm offering you $100,000 a year, full benefits, housing allowance so you can move Caleb to a better neighborhood, private school tuition, college fund, everything, and more. Importantly, I'm asking you to help stop something that could genuinely threaten national security. Hunter thought about Thomas Whitfield, about a man forced to choose between his wife and his country. Thought about Caleb downstairs, playing with blocks, innocent and safe for now. Thought about the life he'd been trying to build, the normal existence that kept slipping through his fingers. If I take this job, he said slowly, I need complete honesty. No corporate secrets, no hidden agendas. I need to know everything, and I need authority to make decisions without bureaucratic approval. If I say we evacuate, we evacuate. If I say someone's compromised, you trust my judgment. Can you give me that? Lydia extended her hand. You have my word. Hunter shook it, feeling the moment's weight. 6 years ago, he'd left the Marines to be a normal father. But normal kept exploding into crisis, and maybe his skills were needed here, protecting something that mattered. Okay, he said. I'm in. Now tell me everything about this quantum encryption system and everyone who knows about it. Because if we're going to stop the next attack, we need to understand exactly what we're protecting and who we're protecting it from. What he didn't know yet was that the next attack was already in motion, and it would hit closer to home than anyone imagined. The next 72 hours blurred together in a haze of security reviews, personnel interviews, and late-night strategy sessions. Hunter moved into Apex Dynamics, like he was setting up a forward operating base, establishing defensive positions and identifying vulnerabilities with the same methodical precision he'd used in Afghanistan. Marcus Chen proved invaluable, his corporate security background complementing Hunter's combat experience perfectly. Together, they reviewed every employee with access to the quantum encryption project, cross-referencing financial records, communication patterns, and travel histories. Thomas Whitfield wasn't the only compromise point, Hunter explained during a midnight briefing with Lydia and her core team. He was forced to steal the data, but someone had to identify him as a target. Someone told the Kozlov organization exactly who to pressure and how. Dr. Reynolds pulled up personnel files. There are 17 people with high-level access to the quantum project. Whitfield was one of them. Any of the others could be feeding information. Or it could be someone without direct access who's piecing together information from multiple sources, Jonathan added. Corporate espionage often works through social engineering rather than direct theft. Hunter spent his days interviewing staff, watching body language, listening for inconsistencies. He spent his evenings with Caleb, who'd adapted to the Apex Dynamics childcare facility with remarkable ease, making friends and enjoying resources Hunter could never have provided on a catering salary. Dad, can we stay here forever? Caleb asked one evening as Hunter picked him up. They have a science lab, and Ms. Patterson says I'm really good at experiments. We'll see, buddy. I'm still figuring things out. But truthfully, Hunter was already getting comfortable. The salary Lydia offered meant stability for the first time since his divorce. Caleb could attend schools Hunter had only dreamed about. They could move out of Millbrook Heights into a neighborhood where gunshots weren't part of the ambient noise. Lydia herself remained professional, but increasingly open. sharing details about her father's vision for Apex Dynamics, her own struggles with leadership, her fear that she'd inherited something precious and was destroying it through coldness and poor judgment. 17 people fired in 1 year, she said during one late-night session, just the two of them reviewing security footage. 17 lives disrupted because I convinced myself that caring was weakness. You made me see how wrong that was. You're trying to fix it. That counts for something. Does it? Or am I just scared and trying to buy redemption? Hunter didn't have an answer for that. On day 4, they found it. A pattern in the communication logs that Marcus's algorithms flagged as suspicious. Someone had been sending encrypted messages to an external server, buried in routine network traffic designed to look like system updates. The someone was Rebecca Morrison, the corporate lawyer who'd given Hunter his first check. She's been with us for 6 years, Lydia said, staring at the evidence in disbelief. Handled our most sensitive negotiations. I trusted her completely. That's why she was valuable, Hunter said. Trust gives access. We need to confront her, but carefully. If she knows we're onto her, she'll disappear like Whitfield. They set up a controlled interview, casual and non-threatening. Rebecca walked in expecting a routine legal consultation and found Hunter waiting with evidence of her communications displayed on multiple screens. To her credit, she didn't try to lie. They have my daughter, she said simply, voice hollow. She's studying abroad in Prague. 3 weeks ago, she disappeared. Then I got a video of her tied up, terrified, begging me to cooperate. What would you have done, Mr. Tate? What would any parent do? Hunter understood that desperation intimately. Help us stop them and we'll get your daughter back. Keep protecting them and she dies anyway once you're no longer useful. Rebecca provided everything. Names, contact methods, the entire structure of the Kozlov organization's operation. It was bigger than they'd imagined, spanning 4 countries, with resources suggesting state sponsorship rather than simple criminal enterprise. They want the quantum encryption to sell to the highest bidder, Rebecca explained. China, Russia, North Korea, anyone willing to pay. Dmitry Kozlov, Victor's brother, is running the operation. He's the real threat. Victor was just a field operative. Where is he now? Hunter asked. Unknown, but he'll make another move before the DoD contract is finalized. He can't let Apex Dynamics deliver that technology to the U.S. government. Hunter and Lydia spent the next week fortifying defenses, coordinating with FBI and DHS, preparing for an attack they knew was coming, but couldn't predict. Marcus tripled security staffing. Dr. Reynolds moved the quantum encryption data to an off-site secure facility. Jonathan arranged for private military contractors to supplement their protection. And slowly, carefully, Hunter and Lydia began building something beyond professional cooperation. Late nights became conversations about life beyond work. Shared meals in her office turned into genuine friendship. The attraction was there, unspoken but obvious, complicated by professional boundaries and the immediate threat hanging over everything. After this is over, Lydia said one evening, after we've stopped Kozlov and secured the DoD contract, I'd like to take you and Caleb to dinner. Somewhere nice, not as your employer, just as someone who's grateful and interested. I'd like that, Hunter admitted. 2 weeks after Hunter took the job, federal agents arrested Victor Kozlov's entire cell based on Rebecca Morrison's intelligence. 6 people, all foreign nationals, all connected to the yacht attack. The operation was hailed as a major counterintelligence victory. They celebrated cautiously, knowing it might not be over, but hoping it was. That hope lasted exactly 3 days. The arrest of Viktor Kozlov's cell made national news. International espionage ring dismantled, the headlines declared. Federal prosecutors announced charges ranging from conspiracy to commit economic espionage to attempted kidnapping. The Ukrainian consulate quietly expelled Thomas Whitfield, and he was immediately taken into custody. Lydia stood at a press conference, professional and composed, thanking law enforcement and carefully not mentioning Hunter's role. They'd agreed to keep his involvement quiet, protecting both his privacy and his effectiveness as her security director. Is the threat to Apex Dynamics completely neutralized? A reporter asked. We believe the immediate threat has been addressed, Lydia answered carefully. We continue to work closely with federal authorities to ensure the security of our proprietary technology. Behind the scenes, FBI agents assured them the investigation was comprehensive. Viktor Kozlov was cooperating, providing names and operational details. Rebecca Morrison's daughter had been located and rescued by Czech police. The network appeared completely dismantled. Hunter wanted to believe it, wanted to accept that the danger had passed, that he could finally relax into this new life he was building. The celebration dinner happened on a Friday evening. Lydia had reserved a private room at an upscale restaurant overlooking the harbor, invited her core team and their families. Caleb came wearing his best clothes, excited to be included in a grown-up dinner. Marcus Chen brought his wife and teenage daughter. Dr. Reynolds came with her husband. Jonathan Blake arrived with his partner. Even Rebecca Morrison attended, released on bail and wearing an ankle monitor, grateful that her cooperation had saved her daughter's life. To second chances, Lydia toasted, raising her glass, and to the people who make them possible. They toasted, ate excellent food, told stories that had nothing to do with espionage or danger. Caleb charmed everyone by explaining his science experiments in enthusiastic detail. For a few hours, it felt like normal life, like they'd actually won. Hunter drove Caleb home that night, his son falling asleep in the passenger seat, exhausted from excitement. Their new apartment, paid for by Apex Dynamics' housing allowance, was in a safe neighborhood with good schools and parks. Hunter carried Caleb inside, tucked him into bed in a room that actually had space for a desk and bookshelves. Love you, Dad, Caleb mumbled, half asleep. Love you more than the ocean, buddy. Hunter's phone buzzed as he was heading to his own bedroom. A text from Lydia. Thank you for tonight, for everything. You've changed my life in ways I'm still processing. Sleep well. He smiled, typed back. Same here. Good night. He slept deeply for the first time in weeks. No nightmares, no hypervigilance, just genuine rest. The phone woke him at 4:17 a.m. Unknown number. Mr. Tate, this is Special Agent Williams, FBI. I'm sorry to call so early, but we have a situation. Viktor Kozlov escaped federal custody approximately 2 hours ago. We believe he had help from inside the detention facility. We're issuing immediate protective orders for you and Ms. Chambers. Hunter was already out of bed, moving toward Caleb's room. How did he escape? Still investigating. But Mr. Tate, there's something else. Kozlov's brother Dmitry has entered the country. Facial recognition caught him at JFK Airport 3 days ago using a diplomatic passport. We've been trying to locate him, but he's gone dark. Hunter reached Caleb's room and froze. The window was open, curtains moving in the night breeze. The bed was empty. On the pillow where his son should have been sleeping lay a single photograph. Caleb, bound and gagged, terrified eyes staring at the camera, and a message written on the back in precise handwriting. The quantum encryption data, Full access codes. Delivered personally by Hunter Tate to coordinates I will provide. You have 24 hours. Come alone or the boy dies. This is personal now. Dmitry Kozlov. Hunter's world stopped. The phone fell from his hand. Every tactical skill, every bit of training, every ounce of discipline evaporated in the face of pure, absolute terror. They had his son. The next 4 hours were the longest of Hunter's life. FBI agents swarmed his apartment, dusting for prints, analyzing the entry point, trying to construct a timeline. Special Agent Williams explained that Dmitry Kozlov must have been planning this for days, waiting for the perfect moment when everyone's guard was down. We'll get him back, Williams promised. We have resources, protocols for hostage situations. Your protocols take time, Hunter said, his voice hollow. I have 24 hours. Lydia arrived within 30 minutes of Hunter's call, still in her evening clothes from the celebration dinner. She looked at the empty bed, the photograph, and her face went pale. We give them what they want, she said immediately. The encryption data, the codes, everything. Caleb's life is worth more than any technology. It's not that simple, Dr. Reynolds said, having rushed over with Marcus Chen. The encryption system has safeguards. Even if we wanted to hand it over, extracting the complete data would take days. Dmitry knows this. He's not actually expecting a clean exchange. Then what does he want? Lydia demanded. Hunter stared at the photograph, at his son's terrified eyes, and understood. He wants me. This whole thing, from the yacht attack to Victor's arrest to this, it's all been about drawing me out. The encryption data is just bait. Marcus pulled up files on Dmitry Kozlov. Former Russian intelligence, expelled for unauthorized operations, now running a private espionage organization. And, buried in the file, a notation that made everything clear. Dmitry's younger brother Victor had been captured during a botched operation, sent to federal prison, humiliated and exposed because of intelligence provided by Hunter's tactical assessment. You're the one who identified Victor's patterns during the yacht attack, Marcus said. Your analysis helped FBI dismantle the entire cell. Dmitry doesn't just want the technology, he wants revenge. The coordinates came at 8 a.m. An abandoned industrial facility 40 miles outside the city, the kind of location that offered multiple escape routes and zero police coverage. It's a trap, Williams said. He'll kill you both and disappear. We need to set up a tactical response, position SWAT teams, negotiate for more time. Negotiate with what? Hunter's voice was cold now, all emotion locked away behind the combat mindset he'd tried so hard to leave behind. He has my son. He has all the leverage. And if I don't show up exactly as ordered, Caleb dies. Then we go together, Lydia said. He wants the encryption data delivered personally by you. Fine, I come too with the access codes. We give him what he wants and get Caleb back. Miss Chambers, that's suicide, Williams protested. That's non-negotiable. Lydia's voice carried absolute finality. Hunter saved my life. Now I help save his son's. End of discussion. They spent the remaining hours preparing. Hunter reviewed the facility layout using satellite imagery, identifying potential ambush points and escape routes. Marcus assembled a quick reaction force of private contractors, positioning them outside the facility's immediate perimeter. Dr. Reynolds prepared a modified version of the encryption access codes, functional enough to pass initial verification, but containing hidden fail-safes. At 3:45 p.m., Hunter and Lydia drove toward the coordinates in an armored SUV, followed at a distance by FBI surveillance teams. Hunter's mind was eerily calm, the same clarity he'd felt during combat operations. Fear was useless now. Only tactics mattered. I'm sorry, Lydia said quietly as they drove. This is my fault. My technology, my company's security failures. Your son is in danger because of me. Caleb is in danger because bad people exist, Hunter corrected. You didn't create Dmitry Kozlov. You just built something worth stealing. There's a difference. The facility appeared exactly as threatening as expected. Rusted metal buildings, broken windows, the skeleton of industrial infrastructure long abandoned. Hunter parked where instructed and stepped out. Hands visible, Lydia beside him carrying a tablet with the encryption codes. Dmitry Kozlov emerged from the central building, and Hunter saw the family resemblance to Victor immediately. Same build, same cold eyes, but older, more calculating. And beside him, held by a guard twice his size, was Caleb. His son was crying, terrified but unharmed. When he saw Hunter, he screamed, "Dad!" and tried to run. The guard held him back easily. "Mr. Tate?" Dmitry said, his accent thick but his English perfect. "Finally, we meet. The man who destroyed my brother's operation, who humiliated my organization, who cost me millions in lost contracts. I've been looking forward to this." "You have me," Hunter said. "Let my son go. After we verify the data. Ms. Chambers, please approach with the access codes." Lydia walked forward, tablet extended. Dmitry's technical specialist took it, began running verification protocols. 30 seconds passed, a minute. The specialist nodded. "Authentic," he confirmed. "Excellent." Dmitry smiled. "Now, Mr. Tate, here's what happens next. Your son goes free as promised. Ms. Chambers stays with me as insurance until I've successfully extracted and sold the encryption data. And you, well, you get to live with the knowledge that you traded American national security for your son's life. The guilt should be exquisite." "That wasn't the deal," Hunter said. "I'm altering the deal. Be grateful I'm letting the boy live." Dmitry nodded to the guard, who released Caleb. His son ran toward him, and Hunter caught him, held him, felt the weight of him alive and safe. But Dmitry's men were already surrounding Lydia, and Hunter saw the trap closing. He had maybe 3 seconds to make an impossible choice. Hunter made his choice in less than 1 second. He grabbed Caleb and dove behind the SUV just as Marcus Chen's tactical team opened fire from concealed positions around the facility perimeter. The entire operation had been coordinated from the start, FBI and private contractors working in concert, waiting for Dmitry to reveal his full hand. Chaos erupted. Dmitry's guards returned fire, but they were outnumbered and outpositioned. Hunter shielded Caleb with his body, covering his son's ears against the gunfire, whispering reassurances that everything would be okay. Lydia dropped flat as trained, and Marcus's team created a protective corridor. 2 contractors reached her within seconds, escorting her to safety while suppressive fire kept Dmitry's men pinned down. The firefight lasted 90 seconds. When it ended, 4 of Dmitry's guards were in custody, 2 wounded, none dead. And Dmitry Kozlov himself was on his knees, hands zip-tied behind his back, while FBI agents read him his rights. Hunter stood slowly, Caleb still in his arms, and walked toward where Dmitry knelt in the dirt. "You made a mistake," Hunter said quietly. "You assumed I'd sacrifice everything for my son. You were right. But you also assumed that meant I'd come alone and unprepared. That was wrong. I'm a Marine. We adapt and overcome, and we never abandon our people." Special Agent Williams appeared, looking satisfied. "Dmitry Kozlov, you're under arrest for kidnapping, extortion, espionage, and about 20 other federal charges. You'll be spending the rest of your life in a Supermax facility. Your brother Victor will be there with you. Family. Reunion." 6 weeks later, Hunter stood in Lydia's office, now officially redecorated to be warmer and more welcoming. The quantum encryption contract with the Department of Defense had been finalized. Apex Dynamics stock had doubled, and Hunter Tate had been offered a permanent position as Chief Security Officer with a salary that made his old catering job feel like a distant nightmare. "Caleb's doing well?" Lydia asked, looking up from her desk. "Therapy is helping. He has nightmares sometimes, but he's resilient. Kids are tougher than we think. Like his father. His father is tired of fighting, ready for that normal life I keep trying to build." Lydia stood, walked around the desk. Over the past weeks, they'd grown closer, professional boundaries gradually dissolving into something more personal. She'd been there through Caleb's therapy sessions, had personally ensured he had access to the best trauma counselors, had treated Hunter's son like he mattered. What if normal life includes dinner on Friday? Not employer and employee? Just two people who've survived impossible situations together and want to see what comes next. Hunter smiled. "I'd like that. Caleb, too. He thinks you're cool, which is high praise from an 8-year-old. Only 8-year-olds? I might think you're cool, too." They kissed then, tentative but genuine, testing the possibility of something beyond crisis and survival. When Hunter picked up Caleb from the Apex childcare facility that evening, his son ran to him with the usual enthusiasm, showing off a science project about ocean ecosystems. "Dad, Miss Patterson says I could be a marine biologist when I grow up. Isn't that awesome?" "The most awesome," Hunter agreed. As they drove home to their safe apartment in their safe neighborhood, Caleb asked the question that had been coming for weeks. "Dad, are you and Miss Chambers dating?" Hunter considered various diplomatic answers, then settled on honesty. "Maybe. Would that be okay with you?" Caleb thought about it seriously. "She's nice, and she makes you smile more. So yeah, it's okay. But Dad?" "Yeah, buddy? No more bad guys, okay? I'm tired of bad guys." Hunter pulled into their parking spot, looked at his son in the rearview mirror. "Deal. No more bad guys. Just normal life from here on out." And for the first time since leaving the Marines, he actually believed it might be possible. 3 months later, at Caleb's 9th birthday party held at Apex Dynamics, surrounded by friends and coworkers who'd become family, Hunter Tate stood beside Lydia Chambers and watched his son blow out candles on a cake shaped like a sea turtle. The past year had been impossible. Unemployment, gunfights, kidnapping, federal investigations. But somehow, through all of it, he'd found what he'd been searching for since leaving the military. Purpose, stability, family, and love, unexpected and complicated, but real. "Make a wish, buddy," Hunter called to Caleb. His son closed his eyes, thought hard, and blew out all 9 candles in one breath. When he opened his eyes, he looked directly at Hunter and Lydia standing together. "It already came true," Caleb said, smiling. And Hunter knew exactly what he meant. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.